Monday, July 6th. Monster. Early morning in Cell Block D, Manhattan Detention Center. Camera goes slowly down grim gray corridor. There are sounds of inmates yelling from cell to cell. Much of it is obscene. Most of the voices are clearly black or Hispanic. Camera stops and slowly turns toward a cell. 16-year-old Steve Harmon is sitting on the edge of a metal cot, head in hands. He is thin, brown skinned. On the cot next to him are the suit and tie he is to wear to court for the start of his trial. Ernie, another prisoner sitting on John, pants down. Another prisoner pulling on a t-shirt. Steve pulling blanket over his head as screen goes dark. Ain't no use putting the blanket over your head, man. You can't cut this out. This is reality. This is the real deal. Prisoner explaining how the detention center is the real thing. As he does, words appear on the screen, just like the opening credits of the movie Star Wars, rolling from the bottom of the screen and shrinking until they are blur on the top of the screen before rolling off into space. Monster, the story of my miserable life, starring Steve Harmon, produced by Steve Harmon, directed by Steve Harmon, the incredible story of how one guy's life was turned around by a few events and how he might spend the rest of his life behind bars, told as it actually happened. Written and directed by Steve Harmon, featuring Sandra Petrocelli as the dedicated prosecutor, Kathy O'Brien as the defense attorney with doubts, James King as the thug, Richard Bobo Evans as the rat, Osvaldo Cruz, member of the Diablos. Yo, Harmon, you gotta eat something. Come on and get your breakfast, man. I'll take your eggs if you don't want them. You want them? I'm not hungry. His trial starts today. He's up for the big one. I know that how that feels. Through the bars at the rear of the van, we see people going about the business of their lives in downtown New York. There are men collecting garbage, a female traffic officer motioning for a taxi to make a turn, students on the way to school. Few people notice the van as it makes its way from the detention center to the courthouse. Prisoners handcuffed coming from the back of the van. Steve is carrying a notebook. He is dressed in the suit and tie we saw on the cop. He is seen only briefly as he is herded through the heavy doors of the courthouse. As the last prisoner from the van enters rear of courthouse, fade in, interior courthouse, we are in a small room used for prisoner lawyer interviews. A guard sits at the desk behind Steve. Kathy O'Brien, Steve's lawyer, is petite, red-haired, and freckled. She is all business as she talks to Steve. O'Brien. Let me make sure you understand what's going on. Both you and this King character are on trial for felony murder. Felony murder is as serious as it gets. Sandra Petrocelli is the prosecutor and she's good. They're pushing for the death penalty, which is really bad. The jury might think they're doing you a big favor by giving you life in prison. So you'd better take this trial very, very seriously. When you're in court, you sit there and you pay attention. You let the jury know that you think this case is as serious as they do. You don't turn and wave to any of your friends. It's all right to acknowledge your mother. I have to go and talk to the judge. The trial will begin in a few minutes. Is there anything you want to ask me before it starts? You think we're going to win? It probably depends on what you mean by win. Cut to interior holding room. We see Steve sitting on one end of bench. Against the opposite wall, dressed in a sloppy-looking suit, is 23-year-old James King, the other man on trial. King looks older than 23. He looks over at Steve with a hard look, and we see Steve look away. Two guards sit at a table away from the prisoners who are handcuffed. The camera finds the guards in a medium shot. They have their break-fast aluminum takeout trays that contain eggs, sausages, and potatoes. A black female stenographer pours coffee for herself and the guards. I hope this case lasts 2 weeks. I can sure use the money. 6 days, maybe 7. It's a motion case. They go through the motions, then they lock them up. Ain't that right, Bright Eyes? Who is cut to Steve, who is seated on a low bench. He is handcuffed to a U-bolt put in the bench for that purpose. Steve looks away from the guard. Cut to door. It opens, and court clerk looks in. 2 minutes. Cut to guards who hurriedly finish breakfast. Stenographer takes machine into courtroom. They unshackle Steve and take him toward room door. Steve is made to sit down at one table. At another table, we see King and two attorneys. Steve sits alone. A guard stands behind him. There are one or two spectators in the courtroom. In the court, Then four more enter. Close up of Steve Harmon, the fear is evident on his face. Mid shot. People are getting ready for the trial to begin. Kathy O'Brien sits next to Steve. How are you doing? I'm scared. Good. You should be. Anyway, just remember that we've been talking about. The judge is going to rule on a motion that King's lawyer made to suppress Cruz's testimony and few other things. Steve, let me tell you what my job is here. My job is to make sure the law works for you as well as against you, and to make you a human being in the eyes of the jury. Your job is to help me. Any questions you have, write them down, and I'll try to answer them. What are you doing there? I'm writing this whole thing down as a movie. Whatever. Make sure you pay close attention. Close attention. All rise. The judge enters and sits behind the bench. He is tall and thin. He pushes his fingers through wisp of white hair and looks over the courtroom before sitting. He is a 6-year-old New York judge and already looks bored with the case. The court guard signals for people to sit. Prosecution ready? Sandra Petrosi, the prosecutor, stands. She is dressed in a gray business suit. She looks intense. While still being attractive, her hair and eyes are dark. Ready, Your Honor. Defense? ACA Briggs, the lead counsel for the defense of James King, stands up. He is dressed in a dark blue suit and light blue tie. His eyes are also blue and his hair is white. Ready. Ready, Your Honor. All right. I'm ruling the kid's testimony is admissible. You can bring up your emotions relative to that ruling this afternoon or if there's a break. Hope everyone had a good 4th of July. The usual barbecue and a softball game that reminded me that I can't run anymore. With all the fireworks, it's my least favorite hobby. Bring in the jury. Cut to film workshop at Steuben High School. A film on a small screen is just ending. It is a class project and the camera is shaky. We watch as a girl on the screen walks down slowly away. The screen goes black, then dazzling white. The normal light goes on. We see Mr. Sawaki, film club mentor, and 9 students who are casually dressed. In an injured competition, the ending would have hurt this place, but otherwise it was interesting. Any comments? We see Steve raising his hand, looking much the same as he does in court. I like the ending. I didn't say it was bad, but it wasn't predictable. You need to predict without predicting. You know what I mean? When you make a film, you leave an impression on the viewers, you who serve as a kind of jury for your film. If you make your film predictable, they'll make up their minds about it long before it's over. Cut to courtroom, we see the judges filing in and taking their seats. You think they'll look all right? They are what we have for a jury. We have to deal with them. Cut to a long shot of Petrosili. She stands at the podium in front of the jury. She smiles as the jurors and some smile back. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sandra Petrosili, and I'm an assistant district attorney for the state of New York. I am representing the people in this matter, which you were informed during jury selection is a case of felony murder. We're here today basically because this is not a perfect world. The founding fathers of this country understood this. They knew that there would be times and circumstances during which our society would be threatened by the acts of individuals. This is one of those times. A citizen of our city, a citizen of our state and country has been killed by people who attempted to rob him. To safeguard our society, a system of laws has been created. You, the jury, are part of this system of laws. I represent the state of New York, and I am part of that system, as are the judge and all the participants in this trial. I will do my best to bring you the facts of this case, and I know you will do your best to judge the merits of the case. Most people in our community are decent, hardworking citizens who pursue their own interests legally and without infringing on the rights of others. But there are also monsters in our communities, people who are willing to steal and to kill, people who disregard the rights of others. On the 22nd of December of last year, at approximately 4 o'clock in the afternoon, two men entered a drugstore on 145th Street in Harlem. The state will contend that one of those men was Richard Bobo Evans. The state will contend that the other man who entered the store at that time and who participated in that robbery and murder was James King. Petrosilli points to the table at which James King sits. Mr. King is the man sitting at that table who is wearing a brown suit and is sitting at the right of the table. You were introduced to him during the jury selection process. He is one of the men on trial here today. The purpose of the two men entering the store on that Monday was very simple. They were going to rob the owner, 55-year-old Alginaldo Nesbit. We will show that although the two men did not have a gun with them, the owner of the store did have a gun for which he had a license and produced it to defend his property. Mr. Evans, who participated in the robbery, will testify that there was a struggle which resulted in the gun being discharged and Mr. Nesbit being killed. Mr. Nesbit had every right to defend his property, every right not to be robbed. We all have that right. Further, there will be evidence that prior to the robbery, there was a plan or conspiracy to rob the store. Mr. Evans and Mr. King were to enter the store and do the actual robbery. Another one of those planners of this crime was to stand outside the drugstore and impede anyone chasing the robbers. The young man who had this assignment will testify to his role in the affair. Yet, another of the conspirators, the planners of this robbery that left a man dead, was to go into the store prior to the robbery to check it out, to make sure that there was no police in that store, to make sure that the coast was clear as they said. Two of the conspirators will testify to the understanding of this fact. The man who was enter the store and checking out and sitting at the other table, his name is Steve Harmon. Cut to Steve Harmon, then close up a pad in front of him. He is writing the word monster over and over again. A white haired O'Brien takes the pen from his hand and crosses out all the monsters. O'Brien, whispering, "You have to believe in yourself. If we're going to convince a jury that you're innocent." Cut to MS or Midshot of Petrocelli. Petrocelli. A medical examiner will testify to the cause of death, showing that the gunshot wound was fatal. Even though it was Mr. Nesbit's gun, it was not Mr. Nesbit who caused his own death. This was no suicide. This death was a direct result of the robbery. Very simply put, this is a case of murder. It is, moreover, a murder committed during a felonious act. The two defendants you see before you will be shown to be participants in the act and are being charged with felony murder. Later, the judge will give you the instructions on how to consider the evidence presented. But there is no doubt in my mind, and I believe by the end of the trial, there will be no doubt in yours, that these two men, James King and Steve Harmon, were all part of the robbery that caused the death of Aguinaldo Nesbit. Thank you. Cut to long shot of courtroom. O'Brien is at attorney's podium.